number. And, I don't know how much you know about NFTs, but, it's going to be a standard.
I know about it as recent as today. Not from you, though. I was informed that you were into those, so that's what made me bring it up.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, we can talk about it.
So, yeah. I'll give you a proper introduction, though. So,
all right.
Welcome back to another episode, ladies and gentlemen. And if you know who's joining me today, we got Jamie Murray. How you doing?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Thanks I'm doing fine. It's good to see you, man. And it's good to see that you're going to be coming back on our screens now. How does it feel? You've been taking it all in, or does it not even feel real? I guess is the real question.
I have a pretty good ability to compartmentalize my life, and when it's not right out in front of you, I'm kind of focused on my day to day. But yeah, it'll be airing April 20th. It's going to be a lot of fun. We had a great time, and it was great to see everybody. So overall, I'm excited to watch the show with a little bit of trepidation.
A healthy amount of trepidation.
Yeah, it's actually like being being beat
born again freshman.
Yeah, well, yeah. You had Melissa on. I'm not gonna speak for her, but for some of us, being on reality TV was stressful in the aftermath, and part of that relates to production not necessarily being as upfront and honest as they could be. And so it's a trust thing, you're going back in bed with someone who has kind of screwed you over in the past. So, but ultimately I'm hoping that there's, some just basic respect offered to all of us, who did the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's a good segue then, since you mentioned that. Obviously, the show has had some type of effects on certain people that have come off the show. We've seen you kind of be somebody that's not necessarily involved in much drama, so to speak, that might not carry as much post-show trauma. But did you experience any type of mental stuff coming off the show?
Yeah, nothing insane or anything like that, but and I'm not using that term as a throwaway term, people have gone on some levels insane. But I just moved on. I just consciously tried to move on from it. And I had at the time a business, and I just kind of threw myself into that. And I don't even know if it's funny because when this next show came up, I watched the original show, and I swear to God, I was sitting there watching it a few months back, and I'm I've never watched some of these episodes. So I guess I watched maybe a few episodes. What happened was right when the show wrapped, we saw the first episode of the Real World New Orleans, and they made me out to be a potentially racist or homophobic character as I relate to Danny and David, who has changed his name now. But I was really pissed about it, and I basically didn't go to the wrap party. And the producer kind of came up to me and was like, don't worry, Jamie, you come around. It's all good. You're going to come around on the show. And I was so pissed because I'm but you're making me come around to something that's I was a racist and potentially homophobic. That's kind of hard. Even if you do come around, there's still
there shouldn't have been coming around to in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's that was kind of how I exited the show. And I guess I never really watched the show. So did it traumatize me? No. I was leave with a perfectly good feeling about the whole thing.
Yeah. Would you say it was an organic thing for you back in the day when you initially stepped away from the spotlight? Were you trying to, or did it organically just happen for you?
Yeah, I don't claim to have any type of talent, so it wasn't people were beating down my door to hire me for anything. But I also wasn't really seeking it out. I never got an agent. Weirdly, I did 3 challenges. So that was kind of my dipping back into it a little bit, And,
no bar appearances, though?
Well, yeah, a couple bar appearances, a couple of college speaking engagements. But what the fuck do I want to, what do I know at the age of 22 to tell anybody,
What did they have you speaking about at those engagements? Do you remember?
Well, it ultimately ended in a Q&A session where we basically just talked about, who hooked up with who and what the heck was New Orleans like, kind of thing. But yeah, what did I speak on? I didn't really have like a topic. I kind of leaned on Melissa or whoever else I was speaking with, because they tended to book like 3 or 4 people at the same event.
Right, because it feels like with some people that they put on those engagements, I feel like they're tailor-made to pertain to a certain demographic of cast members. Whereas, like, in your case, I mean, you're kind of like the more, like, relatable in the aspect of, like, just being, like, a normal guy, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, everybody had, like, these stories that we saw, but from what I hear, I think you have, like, more to a story that just wasn't really necessarily as showcased as much as some of your roommates. Do you feel like your story took a back seat in a way?
Well, it wasn't like I was wanting it to be in the front seat, but I don't think, my story was very uneventful, and in a way, I was very blessed in my childhood. So it's not necessarily story worthy, Not to say all of us have a great story. We are all worthy of our story, no matter what your upbringing is. But like at the time, not Melissa, Julie was kind of the main story, or one of the main stories of the first season. And she was from this pretty hardcore Mormon family. And that's, if you're not aware of like that kind of type of, belief system or lifestyle or whatever, that's inherently interesting, So
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys all about my suburban upbringing, but it just was not TV worthy.
I mean, you did come from a Buddhist monastery, though, didn't you?
At the time the show was shot, I just graduated college, so I had never spent any time in a Buddhist monastery. I was into Buddhism. I've read a bunch of Buddhist shit.
Oh, okay.
But after the show is like my 20s was when I was kind of vibing all that type of stuff.
Was there a particular event that prompted you to do that?
Well, it was post Real World. I was living in San Francisco, and I kind of did have like a little bit of a crazy spiritual awakening. And I could get into it on the podcast, but it was very interesting, very amazing and profound. And from that, I kind of started really vibing Buddhist texts and things like that.
What was this particular event? Because now you got me interested.
It was basically, so in Buddhism, like if you know professional sports, there's like the icons of the professional sports world,
Mm-hmm.
Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, in basketball, let's say, whatever. So in Buddhism, like currently residing on the planet, there are like some known teachers of Buddhism that come from like hardcore lineages of whatever they're teaching. And this one guy kind of entered into my orbit. His name was Namkhai Norbu. Namkhai Norbu is his name. And he was basically a Tibetan Buddhist master of this thing called Dzogchen. And I went to see one of his teachings in Oakland, California. And something gnarly went down in it. And it kind of woke me up to the fact that there's some realities around all these meditation, yoga, Buddhist type of thing. And funny enough, actually, the next day after this event, I bungee jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, which was very rare. That was being planned, and I just happened to go to this Buddhist thing on a lark. And then, anyway, the next morning I had already planned. This was like a kind of military op to do this, and I did it. And when I did it, I was so like not fearful of anything, because like I just had felt and seen and experienced something very like transcendent. And so anyway, it was just like a funny little series of events or whatever that happened around this Buddhist thing. But yeah, I've been vibing that. I have this like case with all these Buddhist texts in it. There's like one little suitcase, like a friggin', like the suitcase in Pulp Fiction or something like that. And it has like 7 books in it. And I'm like, if I ever die, unexpectedly, like hand these off to my kids. And that's kind of, that explains the levels of importance that type of shit has in my perception. But
so you probably feel a lot more zen these days, I would have to assume.
Well, yeah, I'm feeling way more zen in my 40s. I was not zen in my 20s or 30s. But lately, I'm trying my best to get to be more zen. Yeah, because this life is a stressful life, and I don't want to like blow up too much on your podcast in the sense of like information, but I mean, between the New Orleans show and this show, like, a lot has gone down in the sphere of reality. We've had 9/11 cataclysm. I don't know how old you were for that.
I was alive. Yep.
Yeah. And then endless wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that killed thousands of Americans are my age, younger, whatever. And anyway, it's been a shady fucking time for a long time. And
it's still going too, so.
And it's still going. Which, yeah. Anyway, we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, no, that's a topic for another time.
Yes, Mike. So
you're doing the dad thing, the full-time dad thing these days. Is that what you do these days? What has like your life been like, post reality, leading up to this point, of course?
Sure. Well, like post reality from the first show, I lived a single life until I was 37 years old, got married, and now 3 years ago. Yeah. So I got married 7 years ago, and then 3 years ago we had twins. And so I have a boy and a girl who are 3 years old now. So what my day to day is like is that I pretty much am, I'm working. I have a business. I'm an independent sales rep. But then I also am a dad. So I wake up early, hang out and love on these kids and take them places. And it's been awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's my day to day is being a dad and trying to make some cash in this day and age, within that context. But
so I do know you're based in Chicago. So that prompts this question. What's better pizza, by me or by you?
Ooh, well, because I'm from Chicago and I have to claim my stuff, That being said, I love a big New York, thin sliced pizza. That's the best.
I hear the Chicago slices are almost like quiche. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. The way they're structured.
Yeah, they got the cheese on the bottom and the tomato sauce on the top.
Yeah.
It's weird.
A lot more complex than a New York slice. New York's pretty.
You want to sit down with this pizza with a knife and fork, and just dine on it, But then the New York slice is amazing too, But you kind of have to really nail that crust, that like chewy, crispy crust in the New York, right?
It's really crunchy these days, actually.
Is it? Interesting. Yeah. I kind of like it where you have to it has some structure, but it's not like totally hard either. What I love is I went to Italy for my honeymoon, and the Napoli style like brick oven pizzas, those are so good, which is kind of like a New York pizza.
That's basically, we actually got a couple places called Napoli's over here, so could be modeled after those. I don't know if that's a chain or not, though.
Yeah, damn, that's some good pizza right there.
No,
you gotta come to Chicago. Like, if you're ever in Chicago, text me,
look me up. One on me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And a pizza on me. Pizza Lou Malnati's. That's the pizza. Lou Malnati's.
Trade off.
Yeah, nice.
What was the decision process like? Once you get this call for Homecoming, like how were you first approached, and maybe how early into this process did you decide, I'm gonna go do this, or I'm not gonna go do this?
Yeah. It shot in November of this past year.
Mm-hmm.
We were essentially approached in like middle of the summer, kind of looking at availability. It was actually supposed to shoot in September, but the Hurricane Ida rolled through. So my feeling was like, I'm definitely doing it if other people are doing it. Like, I'm not going to be the weak link in the chain, So, and then the only consideration after that is like, am I able to hem myself in enough on these shows to where I don't get myself into trouble with like, some of my politics, some of my thoughts, all that kind of stuff.
So was there a thing that existed? Like, I don't know, in terms of contact with you guys over the years, it seemed like you guys had been kind of doing your own thing and distant, but was there like a contact thing where, you all get the call and then a group chat pops up and you're like, hey, are you going? You going? Was it any of that, or was it just kind of like you're going into it a little blind?
It totally was. We like hooked up on Facebook, tried to message, at least this is me. I was messaging Melissa, Matt, Juliet, Danny. I didn't actually talk to Kelly. No, I did message Kelly. Anyway, regardless, we were kind of side channeling. Everyone's going back and forth. And then I think we never got on like a big group chat though,
But there were combos. Okay.
There were combos. And I'd actually run into David, aka the new name Tokyo. I'm not blowing this up. Yeah, Tokyo. A couple times in Chicago. So like he lives in Chicago. Yeah, he lives we live actually a couple blocks away from each other.
That's nuts. Did you know this all this time, or did you kind of just know this from reconnecting with the show?
No. I've known it for years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, so it was really easy to reconnect with him. But then the show was like, hey, don't like meet up with anybody. And we kind of respected that. Like I was going to go have a coffee with him and be like, okay, so what's going on with this shit?
I figured you guys might go on the same flight even too. Cause
yeah. I don't think we did. We might have, but no, I don't think we did. But yeah, so there was a couple back channels, and I do know that, everyone had their own kind of process and wanting to ultimately say yes to it,
What was maybe your agenda in terms of wanting to go and do this process? You were looking for an experience, or did you have any agenda in terms of with your roommates, connecting purposes, anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike. I was going down there to actually connect with the roommates. Like I didn't do a great job at that first time around. So my goal was to, use this as an opportunity to like really get to know people. Because whatever, I was in my early 20s. I was a crazy party person, and I wasn't like in that mode at that time, So yeah, I wanted to hang out with everybody.
Did you feel like they maybe knew you the first time around?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, maybe. I can't say if anyone knew me or didn't know me or what they were picking up or not. But yeah, I think that first time around, it was such a whirlwind, and everybody's like, you don't really even know. And for me, at least, it was like post college. I had all my buddies. We rocked out. They came down, and it wasn't really about like, hey, let's hang out and play cards tonight. Not saying this show is about that either, but
yeah.
I think as you get older, and maybe if you grew up mature, you'd be a little bit more mature at a young age. But like it took me some time to pop the clutch and be like, okay, let's just kick it. And who the fuck are you? Like I never really knew, Matt and Danny were from like the rural South kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that. And that's interesting. That's like an aspect of who they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how like LA, I think, filmed in August, and then like they immediately tried to piggyback onto you guys. You know what I mean? In terms of like getting this thing up and rolling. Everybody has their theories. I talked with Melissa about it. Do you feel like they wanted you guys like to be the third season, or did it just shake out that way? Everybody's got their.
I think it just shook out that way. Yeah, I think we're. If I'm being honest, I think we're probably like 8th choice or like 7th choice, maybe 8th choice. They probably went through San Francisco, Boston,
Hawaii,
Seattle.
Yeah,
Seattle. Yeah, so maybe we were like 6th choice, but we're
that is insane.
7 guns up, ready to rock.
From
New
2
Orleans coming back. Yeah, from 2. What'd you say? From 2?
It went from 1 to 9.
Oh, 1, 2 to 9. Yeah, exactly.
So
I don't know, man. I mean, we're 40. I'm 44. Okay. So like, it's probably hard to get a 744-year-olds or older like to like be ready to rock for 3 weeks, you know. So
well, you have to take into account too. The other 2 seasons, you're typically dealing with like early 50s to like late 50s, probably. So a little more of a demographic where you might see just kind of sitting and having conversations. Whereas, like, I feel like you guys, you know, you'll have your conversation element, but you guys are still kind of kicking a little bit. You know what I mean? You guys are still like teetering that line of like an OG season, but like not super OG to the point where like, you know, we could still see like drama that pertains to like a certain audience.
Yeah. You know, we had fun. I would have had more fun if COVID wasn't around.
Yeah.
You know, we were hemmed in because of COVID protocols.
Yeah, the quarantine for this, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, not to give away anything that happens, but you know, but like, yeah, I wasn't running down Bourbon Street this time around. Not that I would either, but I would have gone to Frenchman Street. I want to go check out. Have you ever been to New Orleans before?
No, I really haven't. I really want to go.
Yeah, it's a very, very unique American city, you know, like as far as.
Well, the drug of choice is alcohol there, so.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of that going down, but there's a lot of like just crazy history, you know, every city. Do you live in New York? Are you around New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every city has its own kind of history and depth and culture, you know? And I guess what I'm saying about New Orleans is that it's whatever it is, it's New Orleans, you know? So where in a lot of American cities, you kind of get like a little bit of a one size fits all kind of vibe, you know? This is a special place, you know?
Yeah.
And I recommend to your listeners, check it out. It's a great city.
Have you been back, like, aside from obviously your original, and then you go to
just
the
one other time?
One other time?
Yeah. Post Katrina for a friend's wedding. But other than that, I'd never been back.
Okay. No Saints game, though.
No Saints games. Yeah. That being said, I would love to get back there way more often because it's like now that Airbnb's around, you can Airbnb like a spot and just be right there, you know. Yeah. And you get by Airbnb into a neighborhood like our house this time around was a beautiful home in a really awesome neighborhood, and in theory, anybody could do that. They could Airbnb a week and like this kind of vibe, and you know, you don't necessarily need to go to Mardi Gras or Jazz Fest or anything. You could just go down there and eat. The food's amazing.
Is it? I hear it is.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah, it's top of the food in the country.
What's like your food choice if you know you're going there? If you have one designated trip to New Orleans a year and you're like, this is what I'm gonna eat. Like, what's at the top of your menu list?
As far as a dish goes, I don't know. I mean, I like all the New Orleans traditional jambalaya, gumbos, po' boys, all that kind of stuff. More of like a restaurant. There's a restaurant near Tulane called Giacomo's, and I don't know if it's still around, but back in the day, it made great New Orleans. It was like high quality New Orleans cuisine, and it's like fried green tomatoes, a bunch of stuff like that. That's really good. You know.
What was the press like coming off your original show? I heard it was pretty nuts, wasn't it?
I can't really recall. I think I gave a bunch of interviews, but I don't really. Yeah, did Melissa talk about that at all? I don't.
Yeah, she did.
What did she say about the press?
We said that you guys were like the season that really kickstarted the press era in terms of Real World, but Vegas is the one that ultimately takes the credit. But New Orleans is kind of what the catalyst was for press. You guys had like, from what I saw on the internet, you guys had a bunch of like red carpet stuff going on, and yeah, seemed pretty nutty.
Yeah, it was, and I think we were on the cover of TV Guide, which at the time was a big deal.
Did you return to college after that season, or were you?
No, I actually graduated in December, and we shot in January, so I was totally done with college.
Fresh off from college.
Yeah,
wow,
definitely. But Yeah, I feel like it's interesting though, because no matter how much press we got in this era, so many influencers have millions of followers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just we're living in a different age with technology that amplifies personalities way beyond, not to like compare the two, because it's ridiculous to compare it because
Yeah.
the past is the past, but
I see reality TV kind of catching a bit of a stigma these days of like kind of outdated and like not authentic anymore. Whereas like you kind of came up in an era where it was ultra authentic, or at least it felt like that. Did you notice
yeah.
on your shows, because you did a real world season and then you went on to do 3 challenges, were people like authentic, or was there a lot of putting on for the cameras going on still?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely, you're conscious of the cameras, people front for the cameras, but every so often, yeah, conversations would happen where people are opening up and they're totally being honest, and they would actually show that on TV, so, but maybe like you were saying off podcast or whatever about how like these shows are produced and there's a little like so much going on or whatever. I mean, I think there's room for quote unquote real reality TV where there's like actual good exchanges. Eric Nies was talking about like transformative reality TV shows. Like there's probably a market for that, but it might not be on like, NBC.
And then with streaming services, you got to remember now, it's a whole different type of dynamic, I mean, you guys are on Paramount Plus, the All-Star Challenges are on Paramount Plus, and now they've got CBS is pretty much taking the challenge, like the MTV challenge, and there's a CBS challenge that's going to be coming out on Paramount now. So I don't know, man. I'm kind of nervous for the future. I just feel like by like 2024 that like at some point it's just going to ultimately become the challenge being like signed over to CBS, and then there's going to be no more flagship.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen, but does that mean that like Derek and like people get to go compete on CBS prime
but that's
time?
That's the thing though too, because it's like all the CBS people are coming on to MTV's shows, but you don't see like Mark Long going and competing on Survivor or Big Brother on their network. It's like a one-way street thing going on right now, and that's like I've seen a lot to the dismay of the fans.
Yeah. Well, we've always been the bastard children of MTV. That's the thing. I don't know if you asked me this off camera or whatever off podcast, but you asked like did you lean into celebrity or whatever after the original Real World? And like, because we didn't have a second season, we were just thrown out into the world with our measly $5,000. And it was like, all right, go have a good life. Where like a Jersey Shore had multiple seasons, and then they, ultimately you get paid if you do multiple seasons. And I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway.
Well, that's a good segue, since I talked about it with one of your other cast members who brought up Jersey Shore. Do you feel like Jersey Shore is kind of like an extension of the foundation that like Las Vegas, Real World kind of laid? Because I feel like, although I do agree, those guys are definitely entertaining, don't get me wrong, but like when Jersey Shore first came onto the scene, I feel like they took the groundwork that like you guys in Vegas laid and essentially parlayed it into their own genre, but of like a Italian Jersey style thing.
Yeah, it seemed like a similar kind of vibe, and
it was like a Real World essentially.
Yeah, but you know what? For those personalities, it works, and I do think like Vegas Real World, that was like the first Real World where everything was just popping off, Mm-hmm. Everyone was down to fucking get crazy or whatever, I was portrayed as the crazy guy on my show, and I'm very tame compared to many of my friends.
I do hear that. I hear you're like, from all your peers, they they say that like you're like a down to earth, funny guy.
Well, I mean, I'm just like I'm an average party person. I like to party, but try not to have so much drama around, But yeah, I think that like people, after Vegas, it kind of pulled the there's no more restrictor, and then Jersey Shore comes and they can get as crazy as they want to be,
mm-hmm.
and get paid,
Well, that might be a good segue here too, because you and I obviously spoke about this too. You know, you do a pretty decent job of like keeping like social media under tabs and kind of flying under the radar. You know, we don't see you involved in like drama per se. Like, is that like a conscious effort on your part to kind of keep the social media aspect under tabs, or is it just you're just not maybe a fan of it?
Yeah, like I think that I was never really a big poster, and if you don't really start to post, and then all of a sudden you're posting, people are like, "Whoa, hey, how's it going?" You know, and now we're living in a real deal posting world where everyone sees it. You know, so I think I like kind of where I'm at with it. Melissa has a good Twitter game. She has a really good Twitter game.
Oh my God, she is a Twitter warrior.
Yeah, and she knows how to manage her Twitter game, and it's a perfect art form for her because she's a writer. You know. So I don't know, like I have a Twitter and I chimed in on some random crypto stuff in the past, but like, yeah, I don't necessarily need to be voicing my opinion on anything, you know?
No live tweeting when the show comes out, I take it.
Yeah, probably no live tweeting. No, yeah. I'll come back on your podcast though, Mike.
Hey, you know the invite's always open, Jamie.
we can do a debrief.
Yeah. What maybe prompted a guy like you to audition for the Real World? Like we see obviously some of your other personalities on that show, like a Julie per se, right? And you just quickly are able to identify, like, I see why she got picked. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you seem like obviously from talking to me, like you're just normal, like you like to party. Like what maybe like prompted you to want to audition?
Well, the story I've been telling people is that, I was at Cornell and they did a casting at Cornell. Mm-hmm. And it actually might have, whatever. It was a casting in Ithaca, so it might have been for Ithaca College and Cornell. There's two colleges there, and a bunch of people showed up. And one of my friends said this was happening, and I didn't have anything to do that afternoon. So we bought a case of beer. We drank a case, 12 beers, whatever, in line, and then they bring you into this room where you dialogue with 8 people around a big dining room table. And it's 8 other students, and they're throwing out questions. And then after that moment, if they like kind of your vibe, they hand you this application, and it's like a fucking 30-page application, and whatever. It's kind of one of those fun applications where it's do you like the day or night, or asking you kind of fun, reflective questions. That's, it's not like, can you balance this checkbook or whatever, some hardcore. Filled out, and then that started a 4-round process, and I just kept on getting called back. It was fucking weird,
Do you remember any questions that they asked you in the process that maybe stood out?
I honestly can't remember any question. I can't remember anything. I mean, it was something like who's influenced you or something like that,
Yeah.
Who's been a major influence in your life. And I can't remember what I answered,
Yeah, I mean, that was a while ago.
I think, dude, you know what I think it was? Is that they are casting for specific typecasts,
Yeah.
At least back then they were, okay? And like you said, Julie was a very clear, it's a small town Mormon girl going out in the big wide world, that was that.
Yeah.
So for me, I was the white frat guy, party dude who's gonna come down, rock the fucking New Orleans vibe, and I didn't necessarily do that, I was pretty tame, but that's, and then ultimately they kind of painted me to be potentially racist to my, black roommate kind of thing, which again, no big deal. But so I think I just must have fit a certain type of basic bill,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen in some cases there's a pattern where it's the people that get casted for these shows don't necessarily, or the ones that don't necessarily take the process itself seriously. Is that right? Am I spot on in that regard?
I think maybe, yeah, maybe it's kind of like a person who's going at it yeah, cool if it happens, and no biggie if it doesn't. But that's kind of for everything in life, if you're going for a job interview, try to be a cool cucumber, you don't need these fuckers, even though you might need them. And because sadly, people don't want to like partner up with desperation, people who are, needing something, And I actually, if I can comment about the wider world right now, I'm loving this Amazon unions. I'm loving the Starbucks unions. I'm loving the fact that the workers are finally saying, hey, you know what? I want more out of my day-to-day from this company. And you could tell me to go fuck off, but I'm not going to. I'm going to unionize. So I think this is a good thing that's happening in society right now. And yeah. Anyway, I'm watching the news. I watch the news every day. I'm paying attention, But yeah, I mean, if you're going to try out for a show, I mean, for me, I literally Melissa had watched the show. I heard on your podcast that she watched The Real World. I never watched The Real World. So I was kind of just going through a process and, whatever. I didn't really know what I was getting into.
Yeah. Would you say that the challenges are maybe something you maybe took more of a liking to?
Yes, really? Definitely.
Did you intend on stopping those when it did ultimately stop, or you feel like it was more of on
honestly,
their end?
It was funny because at the time I judged older people on the challenges. So I was like joking with Cyrus and Mark Long and shit, like, you motherfuckers are ancient. The dirty.
Now that's normal now. You got
now it's normal.
CT just won the last 2 seasons of the flagship, and he's 41.
Exactly, and he's probably he could win the next 5 if he wanted to. Yeah. So and you could ask any of these old school dudes that there are definitely challenge eras. I was part of the first era, which was like the first 5 or the first 4 or whatever, all the way up to like Gauntlet 2, and then there was this middle era that happened for a bunch of years. And then it blew up into these shows like the International Challenge that they're pulling people from Survivor fucking Turkey and shit, So that's the 3rd gen. And now we just were talking about CBS maybe taking the show into the 5th gen, right?
Yeah.
But so I was in this 1st gen where like I felt I was old on Gauntlet 2, and I was like 28 or something, or I don't even know how I might have been 26, but so yeah, I would have. I don't know. Yeah, after that last challenge, maybe they just didn't want me back. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've talked about this at all or not, but they actually put you on the rookies team on that show, and you had already done like 2 different shows and won both of them nonetheless. So
right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Do with that.
Luckily, the rookies won. The rookies won the Gauntlet too.
What the hell happened there, man? Like, what do you feel like? Like, what the hell went into that thought process? Like, here you are. Like, obviously, you come from a real world season that's very identifiable, and you're on 2 previous shows. You win both of them, and then they're not only that, but they tip the scale so much in the
veterans' favor.
Yeah.
Just
think about it. Imagine being the veterans. Imagine being like Mark Long right now, or like Brad on the veterans team, and see like someone like you who's won twice just get put on the rookies team, even though you've already done and won 2 challenges. Like,
right.
I'd be pretty pissed off, and I'm like, it's like plucking like, say if like the Jets are versing like the Buccaneers or something, and then you put Tom Brady on like the Jets. Right? Like, makes sense.
I'll take the Tom Brady comparison. Yeah, dude, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It was funny. Yeah. I can't even really remember if it all comes down to the final challenge, right? There was probably like 8 people still around for that, maybe 4 on each team, I think.
That was such a good season, too. And I know that I think the final itself, I think, like, I don't know if it was the rookie guys, the veteran guys, but they saw the course the day before or something like that, and they had to change the final up to what we saw, obviously, which was basically like a glorified eating thing. Like, if you could just eat this and under this amount of time, you win. But apparently there was supposed to be a bigger final.
Oh, yeah.
People are saying.
Yeah. And somehow, like, because someone saw it, that was going to spoil the course or something.
That wasn't your team, was it?
No, I have no knowledge of that.
I think.
Yeah, I think it was the veteran guys. But that's like, I wish I could do these modern challenges because they get into that eco challenge level hardcore shit. Yeah. That's interesting to me. I like that. And that is actually something I did after college. I did a few of those races.
You did the Eco Challenge?
Never did the Eco Challenge. I did this thing called the Mild 7 Outdoor Quest, which is a 5-day race in China. And then I did like a 6-day race in the British Virgin Islands. But the Eco Challenge, funny enough, actually, the Eco Challenge was created by Mark Burnett or produced by Mark Burnett, and he ultimately did Survivor. So he cut his teeth producing Eco Challenges. And now actually Amazon Prime did a new Eco Challenge, like modern day Eco Challenge, and it's on Amazon Prime now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Adam Morrison and Tim Beggy and 2 Survivor people did the Eco Challenge in '02, I believe.
Wow, I think I heard that. That's amazing.
They fielded a reality team, and they did.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, man. If there's any reality stars out there who want to do a gnarly race, call me up. I'll be a team member.
I think you've got a couple of people you could contact. You don't think? You could contact like Mark or something or somebody, and they would be on board for something like that?
Fuck yeah. The question is, who would I contact? I'd like to go do a race with Eric Neese. I wonder if he's up for it.
Oh, that guy keeps himself in great shape, so.
Yeah. The thing is there are races like that. There's some amazing races nowadays. I mean, Tough Mudders are kind of fun. Those aren't like long-term races.
Too, yeah. But they're like crawl through some mud, do some monkey bars, And
then go have a couple of beers.
Open bar this way.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, some of these the fact that they did that Eco Challenge, those guys experienced some crazy shit. That is a hardcore race.
My question is, were the challenges back in the days when you were doing them, were those seriously something that you had to train for, or were people more so training for the aspect of looking aesthetic, like on TV?
Yeah, I would never in my mind was like, I need to really train up for this. It was, if I wasn't shaving, I'm not saying I was. I'm not saying I was at all. But it was purely probably aesthetic, But there were like some random shit that like we had to push a Celica 5 miles through the desert, on one of these challenges. A Toyota Celica, a car. So randomly, yeah, you would be using some cardio.
What was your favorite challenge that you did out of the 3?
Probably this most extreme challenge, which was Road Rules Real World, took place in. Yeah. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Did Europe? We were in Europe. We were, it was fun.
The second one. Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, they're gonna have us do this crazy thing where I don't know if you know what a trebuchet is. Do you know a trebuchet? Or do you know what a catapult, like in medieval times? Okay. So they had this device where you would hook up into it with like a harness on your chest, and it would literally like catapult you out into this gigantic net. But like, if you missed the net, you would like probably. And the guy was explaining to us was on these crutches, and we were joking. We're like, "Did you like do this thing and miss the net?" He's like, "Oh yeah, that's what happened," And so we ended up not doing that, but it was supposed to be like live skeet shooting where you're flying through the air and someone's shooting you with a paintball gun. And that was something we didn't do, but that was something the producers were willing for us to do.
The contrast is different, like there was paintball competitions as challenges back then. Now this stuff, oh my God, they got people, the flagship, you guys are wrestling on a semi truck while it's moving now and stuff. Like it's nutty, dude.
That's crazy. Yeah, I gotta watch this stuff, man. That's amazing. I watched the All-Star one, the first All-Star one with Mark Long.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was really well produced.
Did you get called for any of the All-Star shows?
Yeah, kind of got run around a couple times, and so yeah, didn't happen.
What was your answer? Yes or no?
I probably would have done it. Yeah. But like, it was kind of like, are you available? Yes. And then they ultimately passed on me. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, seeing as how you're going on Homecoming now, they might, maybe they want to capitalize like once your show's out and done, and say if like there's another season after you guys are done premiering, like that might be a good segue getting some New Orleans cast members onto the All-Star show. So you never know. Maybe the door is still open. This time, I don't know. It might require a lot more training this time around, but.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. I'll get trained up. I'll be ready. I'll be ready. No.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I'm so glad that I was able to get you on here today. Hopefully in the future when we got more to talk about, I'm sure we can maybe revisit this. But thank you for being so generous with your time today, and I had a fun time talking with you.
Thanks, Mike. You're the man. Congratulations on everything you've done with this podcast.
Thanks, man.
Great. All right, brother. And if the show is worthy of watching 6 episodes, well, watch 1 episode, and if you like it, watch 2 episodes. But it'll air April 20th.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Have a great night.
You too.
Take care. Bye.